Please welcome to the stage the moderator, Thomas Schneider, Ambassador, Vice Director, Swiss Federal Office of Communications.
Good morning, everyone. Can you already hear me? So, we have all survived the first few days of the IGF, so there's one more to go. So, welcome to the last morning of this year's IGF, of the 20th IGF. And what a surprise we may talk about WSIS plus 20. Let me introduce our distinguished guests. We have Mr. Eketela Lokale, one of the two co-facilitators for the WSIS plus 20 process in New York, permanent representative of Kenya to the UN. We have Ms. Suela Yanina, the second co-facilitator of the WSIS plus 20 process. She's the permanent representative of Albania to the UN. And then we have Mr. Yunhua Lee, Undersecretary General for Economic and Social Affairs. Give them a warm welcome. Thank you very much.
Because here
Thank you. Sorry, good to see you. As I said before, we had lots of actually good and inspiring discussions on the WSIS plus 20 process, given that this is the 20th IGF and a lot has happened in the last 20 years, and there's lots of ideas around of what should be the outcome of the WSIS plus 20 process that is happening in New York. And of course, we are very happy to have the co-facilitators that have a key role in this process with us. And they had to listen to many people, or had the opportunity to listen to many people. And I guess they heard quite a diversity and a range of expectations and views from all of you. So, and of course, also Undersecretary General Yunhua Lee has had many discussions, has been listening, and the purpose of this session is to hear from them what they heard, how they see things, what are their takeaways, and then, of course, how are the next months gonna work. So let me turn to Mr. Yunhua Lee, Undersecretary General of Economic and Social Affairs. As the Secretariat of the WSIS plus 20 process, of course, you have a key role for the overall review by the UN General Assembly. Can you give us a brief background and update where we are with the process?
Well, thank you, Thomas. Good morning, everyone. First of all, let me express my sincere thanks to the co-facilitators, Ambassador of Albania and Kenya, for their amplifying their leadership for this WSIS plus 20 process. As you said, the WSIS actually started very earlier, more than 2 decades. Started from Geneva in 2003 and followed by Tunis in 2005, which actually laid a very solid foundation for WSIS. Namely, first, it's people-centered. Second, it's a development-driven. Third, it's an inclusive process. And the WSIS also created a very lasting mechanism, that is our IGF. So over the past 2 decades, we all witnessed that profound changes have taken place while we made enormous progress. But having said that, we also need to acknowledge persistent digital device, rapid rise of AI, and also the growing concern on the line and also about the safety, internet safety and security, make a renewed dialogue, conversation essential for all of us. So this conversation to me, to the UNDESA, I guess to all stakeholders, make this WSIS Plus 20 overall review very significant. This process would end up with a high-level meeting of the United Nations General Assembly in December. And as the secretariat for this process, my department, the UNDESA, is very committed to supporting the whole process guided by the co-facilitators. I just want to highlight a few key milestones so far. First, as a first preparatory meeting and stock-taking session was conducted on May 30th at the UN headquarters. Second, a series of the stakeholder consultations, including virtual meetings, were held from 9th to 10th of June, and very remarkable and pivotal development took place on 20th of June with the publication of the WSIS Plus 20 Elements paper circulated by the co-facilitators. This document actually invites the written inputs from all stakeholders by the deadline of July 15. So that I understand that the co-facilitators also concluded a very significant consultations during the UNESCO AI and Digital Conference. Then co-facilitators will continue to engage with multi-stakeholders in coming weeks in Geneva at the WSIS Forum hosted by the ITU. So to ensure this process very much genuine multi-stakeholder, co-facilitators announced announce that we are going to launch the informal multi-stakeholder sounding board. For this board, only members from MAX and the leadership panel, those individuals with no affiliation to the government or intergovernmental organizations are eligible. So that they would reflect the voices, diverse of the voices from tech communities, from youth, and from the civil societies. So all in all those updates, documents, and opportunities, you can check on the website launched by my department recently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so we see inclusivity is something that is taken very serious in this process. And I also thank you personally for being very committed to this principle. So now turning to our co-facilitators, what are the proposals and reflections that you've heard here in this week in Oslo, in the many sessions, many discussions, and many bilateral discussions that you've had with member states and with other stakeholders? Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you, Ambassador. Let me also join Under Secretary General in thanking you and indeed the participants at the IGF. For us, it's been an enormously useful week to be here to interact with different stakeholders. We've tried as much as possible to participate in workshops which have been running. We've had many meetings with a broad range of stakeholders. We've met representatives of member states. We've met representatives of UN agencies, other stakeholders, civil society, academia, technical community, as well as the private sector. And in all those conversations, we've received very, very rich and thoughtful ideas about how we should conduct this process. We've had very, very useful and insightful proposals on the things that we need to take into consideration. One thing that has not been mistakable is the passion with which this community approaches these issues. There's not a single conversation that we had where you couldn't see the passion, the commitment, and the willingness to make their views known. So in terms of some of the concrete proposals which are coming up, we're hearing from the stakeholders, for example, the need for us to ground the WSIS Plus 20 outcome review in the original WSIS vision, that is the Geneva Declaration, Tunis Agenda, and commitment. So I think that's one thing that a broad range of stakeholders agrees upon. The vision of a people-centered, inclusive, and development-oriented information society. So that theme ran through most of the consultations that we had. A second is that there is a clear recognition that even as we ground the review in the original WSIS vision and the Geneva and Tunis agenda or commitments, we should also reflect some of the technological advancements that have happened over the last 2 decades. For example, the advancements in the area of artificial intelligence, digital public infrastructure. There are advancements, but also risks and threats to cybersecurity and so on. So that's the second thing that we're hearing. Then the other big one is the relationship between WSIS and the Global Digital Compact. And on this one, I must say that there have been a diversity of views. What's clear to a lot of people is that we should not duplicate what is in WSIS with what is in the GDC or even the other related processes. But the views are diverse. On the one hand, for example, there are those who feel that WSIS should remain the overarching framework and that all the other proposals in the GDC be implemented under the WSIS architecture. That's one. Then there are also those who say, let the 2 processes don't duplicate, but follow what is in WSIS and let the processes under GDC run their course. So I think for my co-facilitator and I, as we continue engaging, that's one area on which we'll need to strike a careful balance. Then finally, Ambassador, is how do we treat the WSIS action lines? Again, this is another area on which we've received very diverse but thoughtful proposals. There's a proposal that we should not interfere with the WSIS action lines because in the view of those who advanced this proposal, they are wide enough. They can accommodate these emerging technologies, so there is no need to touch them. There is a school of thought that says, let's update the WSIS action lines. So by updating, of necessity, it means you have to touch them somewhat. Then there are those who say, expand the WSIS action lines. Don't add, but leave them as they are, but try to see areas where you can expand to accommodate emerging technologies as well as some of the recent developments. So as you can see, it's been a very rich menu of ideas, and again, we can't thank the stakeholders enough for the openness and the passion with which they've been able, and a few others. So perhaps I'll let my colleague also highlight some. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Good morning, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Ambassador Locale, for capturing almost the discussions that we have heard during this week, but I wanted just to emphasize the importance of our participation here. In fact, while we have organized a roadmap for our process, it has been one of the most important stops, and it proves to be very worthy. Because during this week, we have heard very rich discussions and enlightening also for us. It's really a learning process for us to understand the spirit of WSIS and IGF that my colleague mentioned. And it has been also an inspirational week for us to keep this spirit alive, but also to try to be forward-looking for the future. Some of the elements that maybe I can add in terms of complementing what my colleague already mentioned, when we speak about the process, is the request that we have heard very oftenly, that the process is inclusive, and is our commitment to have this process with this review inclusive and forward-looking at the same time. As mentioned by USG, there has been proposals in creating this new form of communications with stakeholder community, which we are just practicing, or just, it's in a good way of being created, like the informal multi-stakeholder sounding board. We have had the request for volunteers coming from the MAG and leadership panel, and I will take this opportunity to thank all of them that have been volunteered to be part of the sounding board. Very soon we'll need to make a selection based also on a big number of requests, but also on some criteria that we would like to see on the sounding board, like the regional, geographical presentation, but also gender presentation. So very soon you will learn who will be the ones that will be your voice in communicating with us. But I just want to make this very clear from the beginning, that the sounding board will be a practical way of listening with us, of communicating with us. But it's not closing the doors of communication, because we'll be very much committed to hear from every one of you. So please, let's use these opportunities like a kind of coordination way, that in a more practical and efficient way we can hear each other and we can represent your views in the process of that is going to take place during the next weeks and months to come. One other important element that we have noticed and have been repeatedly mentioned to us is the fact of, as we are at the IGF, the future of IGF, what format and what kind of IGF you would like to see for the next 10, 20 years, or the more extended future. And here we are really very much appreciating the fact that there are a lot of ideas coming of how IGF and WSIS in general will fit in the global digital governance. And we have heard around the fact of making extensions to the mandate of IGF, up to making it permanent. We have also heard views of rebranding the name of IGF. We have also heard views about how to strengthen the IGF in terms of including also new and emerging technologies. So these are very important and very useful ideas. Of course, we'll be in the position to hear this discussion more in detail during the coming weeks, but we have had a clear opinion where the proposals stand, and we'll be very happy to hear in the future, again for you in more detail or in concrete language, really what kind of IGF and what is the future of IGF that will fit for purpose and for the future of digital society we want. Another additional element that I would like also to emphasize at this point is the fact that we have been also asked to put our attention to capture and to reflect the diverse experiences that are coming from different stakeholders and regions and sectors at the same time. Because this can encompass different elements, starting from connectivity, access, capacity building, and this is also with particular relevance to include or to make possible that developing countries have a say in this process, and this say should be meaningful, because what we are seeing also with emerging technologies is that we risk to deepen the digital divide that we are seeing nowadays. So more or less, at this stage, I would like just to have these points also as future way of having some other additional food for thought from your side and from the wider multi-stakeholder inputs, like starting it from the governments, but also from private sector, technical community, academia, civil society, youth, all valuable inputs that will come will seriously be taken into account, and we really are very grateful for this rich and very colorful proposals that we are taking during this week.
Thank you very much. So it's also good to see that both of you have felt this vibrant spirit, this passion, no matter whom you talk to, no matter from what stakeholder a person is part of, or what the region of the world. Everybody is really engaged and passionate, and I think it is also something that we realized during the discussions. WSIS is not an institution, or is less an institution. There's no house or organization. It's more of a mindset of cooperation that has different houses within it, around it. The IGF is one of the parts, together with the WSIS forum, that we will continue the discussion in 1 week in Geneva, are some of the key platforms for dialogue, for listening to each other, for having engaged debates. And so I think it is beautiful to see how you captured the spirit of this, and also how you outlined some of the hot issues that many discussions will need to be taking place in the coming months to hopefully come up with something that actually is acceptable to all and meets all expectations. I'd like to maybe also focus a little bit to see what were the elements where you felt clear convergence. What are the areas of convergence? Where do people agree that this should be done and that this should be done, or this is important or is key? Suela, what were your takeaways in terms of where does the community agree?
Thank you, Thomas, for this question, and also for highlighting a little bit earlier the kind of alliances that we are in together. And when we started this undertaking, what I was capturing like very inspiring is the fact that the community is strong, and I've been presented with WSIS community, but I should also put it like, I feel like this is WSIS family. And we're really very glad to be part of it. And sometimes where you are within family, you try to understand the best part of it, but also to speak very honestly with each other. And sometimes we have felt this kind of burden and responsibility, because the process, we need to admit, is challenging, is not among the most easiest process. Also having in mind that we are also working all together in challenging multilateral environment now. But we have been really very surprised that there are many points on which the community converges. And first of all, when we talk about principle, it is important that everyone is very cautious, and awareness is there that we need to preserve the foundation and fundamental vision of WSIS that we just delivered 20 years ago. And what USG mentioned is the vision of a people-centered, inclusive, and development-oriented information society, while at the same time addressing the new challenging elements of development of this society. So when we talk about these new and emerging technologies, we are listening repeatedly and from everyone that new emerging technologies like AI, data governance, can be fitted within the WSIS framework. So this is a good start, let's say, for taking over the next steps and the next discussion. A second point of convergence is the need for capacity building. We are hearing that very often, and this also is linked with what I mentioned before, the fact of digital divide, which we see actually in infrastructure, in skills, in governance. So all these elements need to be very clearly in our focus in order that we commit for concrete actions in order to address the digital divide. And something that I know is very sensible, but I think we need to make a clarification here, because during this week we have this sensibility on the multi-stakeholder approach, and I would like to reassure everyone that this is very central in our work, in our discussions. There is no kind of afterthought or beforethought from us as co-facilitators to walk back from the multi-stakeholder approach that has characterized WSIS, not only WSIS as a process, but has given the positive examples to other processes within UN. So multi-stakeholder approach and engagement will be central in the future negotiations that we are taking for the review of the process. And here again, another call. Let's be engaged all together to preserve what we have achieved and to be ambitious for the future.
Thank you very much, Suela. Egitela, where did you feel convergence and agreement this week?
Thank you. In addition to everything that my colleague has said, we see a desire on the part of everyone we spoke to that we should try to achieve coherence. Coherence between, WSIS, coherence with what is in the GDC. We hear over and over people saying, please don't duplicate. Try to find synergies between the two processes. So that has been a constant message that has come through across the board. The second is stakeholders are saying, don't reopen debates that we've had from 20 years ago. Don't go back 10 years ago. There are issues which, as a stakeholder community, we've discussed, we've agreed. So don't reopen those debates. There are those that we've discussed, but inconclusively, and have agreed to pack them. So that has come out quite strongly, and we've taken that point. The other is we hear people saying there are issues on which there are parallel processes happening right now. Just to give some examples, the AI, for instance, enhanced cooperation is the other one, data governance, and cybersecurity. So we hear those examples where people are saying there are processes that are underway. So let's not duplicate that by bringing those again into the WSIS Plus 20 review. But like with processes as complex as this, the devil is always in the detail. Because when we say we want coherence, what exactly are we talking about? When we say don't duplicate what is in other processes like AI, are we saying we should not touch it? Or if we do, to what extent? And so on. Then finally, this is a conversation that's happening everywhere. There is no appetite for new processes. There is no appetite for new institutions. There is no appetite for new structures. So people are saying, let's see what we have. If it's working, let's improve it and allow it to work. So those are some of the things also on which, there seems to be an emerging consensus among stakeholders. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Egitela. So there is some convergence, which of course is something that is very good. but there is also some work to be done on the issues that will be probably in the center of the discussions. Undersecretary Yuan Li, probably people are also keen, and you've explained it also already in some occasions, but it would be good to hear from you once more. What are the next steps in the WSIS +20 process, and how can this multi-stakeholder dialogue most effectively contribute to a strong and inclusive outcome of the WSIS +20 process in New York?
Well, thank you, Thomas. That I just now, as the two ambassadors, outlined that actually now we are entering into the second phase of this review. It is a very moment to redefine what would be the WSIS +20 and the future IGF. A number of the issues have been flagged out among all the stakeholders from its mandate updating structure or framework, and also the coherence, non-duplication among the various processes. So all in all, I think that in the coming month, definitely the first thing we need to think about that is how we could respond and reply to the elements paper prepared and circulated by the co-facilitators. Why is that so important? Because this element paper would serve as a basis to inform the co-facilitators to draft the zero outcome document, which is the basis for the future negotiation among the member states in Geneva and also in New York in coming October, November, and December. So that is why when we have the different perspectives, the different divergent voices from tech communities, from the civil society, from the youth, from the businesses, and also from parliament, judicial system, all those elements, all those perspectives need to be mutually accommodated and reflected in the final product. So that is why that we believe that the second phase would be the critically important to lay the foundation for the final outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we do have a little bit of time also here to try and be inclusive. There are two microphones in the room. They are lit now, so whoever wants to react is happily invited. If you have final messages or questions, not final, but things that you would like to highlight, please take the mic and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Can I go ahead?
Go ahead,
okay,
yes.
Thank you. Hi, good morning. My name is Jaqueline Pigato. I'm with Data Privacy Brazil, civil society. I would like to emphasize that although you assure us the multi-stakeholder approaches in the negotiation process, it is important to maintain and strengthen this mechanism also in the implementation of the WSIS, as in the cooperation processes between international organizations and states. This must involve all stakeholders. There are already multi-stakeholder agreed guidelines in Net Mundial +10 for this purpose, so it is important that they are mentioned in the outcome paper and effectively reflected in the implementation of both WSIS and the GDC. Regardless of the decisions made regarding this integration, I'm certain that at the next IGF we'll be discussing both processes, what needs to be done, what has worked, so that's it, thank you.
Thank you very much. Any reactions?
Yes, thank you. It was not very easy to capture everything, but I understood that the idea is on emphasizing the multi-stakeholders approach. And I mentioned in our opening remarks that this is central. And just let me clarify something regarding the elements paper. For us, Elements paper has been a starting point for triggering a discussion and for a call for inputs, a food for thought. You may call it different names, but it's important that it started a process on which we have envisaged the main principles that we capture from the consultation with member states and stakeholders. Now, the most important process that we have ahead is to present all these elements that we are getting from the discussions from here, and we are continue the discussion in Geneva a few days after. So everything will be represented in the outcome document. We are presenting, as already informed by the Undersecretary General, in the mid of August, we intend to present this first zero draft of the outcome paper. And everything that you are mentioning here will be clearly reflected there as a way of course, of compromise. But multi-stakeholder approach is something that I don't think we need to put into doubt anymore, but just we also will reflect the calls we have heard to mention all categories of the community that represent the multi-stakeholder approach. So this has been taken note and will be duly reflected.
Thank you very much. And I think the WSIS Plus 20 high-level event and also the AI for Good that are happening like jointly in Geneva in 1 week's time will show that in the discussions about where we stand on the action lines, where we stand on implementing this, you will see lots of stakeholders cooperating. This is the dialogue at the, where you have a multi-stakeholder dialogue. But if you see what UNESCO is doing, what ITU is doing, what all the other UN agencies is doing, I've been in this for more than 20 years actually, since 2003. The UN agencies and the UN system has opened up its arms for cooperation quite significantly over this time, and I think, yeah, nobody questions this importance. So the gentleman over there, please. And try to speak clearly to the mic because it's not that easily hearable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Philip Lee, I'm General Secretary of WACC, which is an international NGO that focuses on communication rights. Summit of the Future, Digital Compact, IGF, WSIS. Can we hear a little bit more about how that will all come together in a series of meaningful actions going forward? Because it seems to some of us that there are disparate parts of it, lots of different elements, it's immensely complicated. But looking ahead, how does that come together? Thank you.
Thank you. An easy question.
Well, not so easy. I alluded to that in my comments, that indeed there is an appreciation that all these processes are related. The issues that are addressed in the Pact for the Future, Global Digital Compact, the issues that we've been discussing, for example, here all week at the IGF and the WSIS, are related issues. What has come out, like I said, is a desire for us to pull all these issues together so that they can be addressed, if not in a single platform, but at least in a way that they speak to each other, in a way that we know that this issue belongs to all the platforms, yes, but it's currently being addressed under Platform 1. I think that has come out quite strongly. It might not be as easy as we have said, because remember, many of these are outcomes which were adopted. There is already a consensus. For example, the Pact for the Future was adopted by heads of state, in September. GDC, the same thing. The process that we are now managing, mandated by the General Assembly. So all these processes have their own mandates that they derive from resolutions of the General Assembly or discussions by stakeholders like ourselves in this room. But there are interesting proposals which we are beginning to hear. For example, there's a proposal that we have a joint implementation plan for the GDC and WSIS, for example. So that's an innovative idea which we are willing to put before stakeholders for further discussion and reflection. But indeed, I think there is agreement that we have to achieve, if not bringing them together, but at least some level of coherence.
Thank you very much. And I think it's a legitimate request to, in a world that gets more and more complex, more and more interdependencies, to somehow try and get an overview, and also, of course, not just to focus on dialogue, which is what the main purpose of this part of the WSIS infrastructure concept is, but also to focus on action. But also there, I think it's unavoidable, given that digital has an impact on everything of our social, economic, political lives, that you will have a distributed system with thousands of actors in the end involved in actions on global, regional and national levels, and you can't even put them all in one room, because there's so many actors. But of course, the system is trying to somehow help each other, all the elements, to understand their space in the whole system. And I think the discussion on a joint implementation plan is definitely something that I think is a very useful one, because that could help to somehow help us all to gain some coherent oversight view. Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Nigel Casimir from the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, an intergovernmental organization. Could I get some clarity on the multi-stakeholder sounding board? Is it something that one has or had to apply to join, or is it like an online space that is being opened for stakeholder comments or whatever? I'm not quite clear on how it works, or it might be intended to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel.
Thank you for the question. The sounding board has been a proposal coming from some member states, but also from stakeholders. So we decided to accept this proposal and to make it known to MAG and the leadership panel. And we invited 4 volunteers to come from these 2 organs in order to fill in the places that we consider should be a contained number, like we propose 10 members from the sounding board. Indeed, there has been a deadline, which has been on Wednesday of this week, but still we are flexible if there is interest. But I need to inform you that the number of volunteers has already surpassed the number of places. So at this point, we need to make a selection, and the selection would be made fairly on basis of representation. Would like also to see different regions to be represented on the sounding board, but also would like to see women represented on the sounding board. So I would encourage you, if there is interest, please present your requests, and then very soon we'll make it known who will be the members that will be part of the sounding board. But again, I would like to emphasize the fact that by creating the sounding board, there was not closing the door to any one of you who would like to approach us to make any proposal or contribution. Indeed, also for the elements paper, there is a deadline on 15th of July to present written inputs, but we are really very flexible. Our aim is to get a broad a spectrum of inputs and ideas and comments and advices. So you are very kindly invited to do so in all ways that you pertain more practical and more efficient to you.
Yeah, just a supplementary remarks to the ambassador. For this sounding board, it's a newly launched mechanism. Of course, it should be balanced to provide professional advisors to the co-facilitators with the balanced composition. But more importantly, as far as I can see, all the stakeholders, if you have a very specific proposal, perspectives, even concerns about all the multi-linked sectors, then please come up with your written response to the elements paper, so that in that sense, it can be more adequately reflected in the zero draft.
Yes, I think it's important to note that this is just one additional informal channel and that has been proposed and requested, and thanks for accepting this. It will not replace any of the other channels. So, and as the Undersecretary General has said, of course, written responses help, yeah, I think it's just one more way. So please go ahead.
Hi, good morning. My name is Konstantinos Komaitis, and I am a resident senior fellow with the Democracy and Tech Initiative at the Atlantic Council. I would really like to express my and our appreciation to both of you ambassadors for being here and listening in and taking notes. I had the honor of really chairing and moderating the session, and the queues, as you have seen, were quite long. I think the big challenge now is how you take on all these comments and incorporate them into the WSIS process. And I would like really to encourage you, as you mentioned in our session, to hold a joint session between governments and non-government stakeholders so we can exchange the views in a more constructive and direct manner. Thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you, Konstantinos.
Thank you. I think the suggestion to hold a joint consultation session between member states and stakeholders is one that we welcome. We already indicated our willingness to pursue this. So we are looking at the possibility of end of July to be able to organize that. But this will be done in consultation. Of course, we'll get the advice from the Secretariat, and it's good that the Undersecretary General is here on the possibility of hosting that. But we think it's one of those things that will give true meaning to multi-stakeholder engagement in this process. So we will try to pursue it and hope that it works, because it will be a very, very useful step. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
One more
Yes,
element. The second preparatory consultation or the preparatory meeting is tentatively scheduled in mid-October, so including the multi-stakeholder consultations.
Thank you for this information. So note this down in your calendars. That's going to be something in mid-October. Please, Bertrand.
Good morning. My name is Bertrand de la Chapelle. I'm the Executive Director of the Internet and Jurisdiction Policy Network. Quickly cannot support more what Konstantinos was saying. It is absolutely essential for this process that governments and the other stakeholders have the capacity to be in the same room and hear each other. And if you can make that happen, it would be a real progress. Quickly, this meeting in Norway, and I've participated in the IGF basically since the first one in 2006, is clearly highlighting an awareness that is growing on what is the role of the IGF in the governance process, which is to do the agenda setting and the issue framing. I had the comment yesterday in the session with the leadership panel that in a certain way the IGF is a sandbox process for the multilateral environment. It is a way to alleviate some of the constraints regarding the participation of non-governmental stakeholders. It's a way to experiment and also to alleviate the constraints for putting something on the agenda. You all know how difficult it is sometimes to put a new topic on the agenda of a multilateral process because you need the agreement of all actors. The IGF is this exploratory space that allows to put agenda items early on and save at least 3 or 4 years in addressing them. The second thing is Ambassador Janina was kind enough to list 3 elements regarding the future of the IGF: the extension of the mandate, the renaming, and the strengthening. I would like to suggest that in the strengthening, there are 2 aspects. One is the revision and evolution of the mandate in light of the new topics that have happened and the clarification of the role of the IGF. And the second element is, and I would pick the expression that was used by Maria Fernanda Garza, who was a member of the leadership panel, which is the organizational evolution of the IGF. How to make sure that from the building blocks that we already have, we build an institution that is functioning even better than it is functioning today, because it has an enormous potential. And the last point is, in order to do so, those 2 points will not be addressed before December in depth, and there will be no agreement there. I strongly believe that we should take inspiration from the Working Group on Internet Governance procedure that was adopted during the WSIS, that led to the creation of the IGF, and that in some shape or form, we would have in 2026 a truly multi-stakeholder group that would address those 2 issues and make proposals for the next stage of the IGF, a sort of constitutional moment, if you want. Thank you.
Should we take, we have 4 people, should we take maybe another intervention and then yes, please, Markus.
I'm Markus Kummer, I'm a WSIS veteran. I chaired various negotiating groups in Geneva in 2003 in the final phase of the summit. And then, at the request of member states, I had to send out non-governmental stakeholders from the room. We have come a long way since, and I would like to thank the co-facilitators for their commitment to a multi-stakeholder approach.
Thank you.
No, hang on. The point I was going to make was, and I had the pleasure of making it when we had a bilateral with the dynamic coalitions and both co-facilitators, express my hope that the zero draft will reflect the fact that the IGF is more than just an annual meeting. It's a process with many intersessional activities, and the importance of the NRIs could not be overemphasized. Also, the dynamic coalitions make tangible contributions to the IGF. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you also for highlighting that it's not just a one-off event, the policy networks, dynamic coalitions, so this, and so on and so forth, that have been not asked for in a UN resolution. They just have emerged because people wanted to continue the discussion, and they wanted to turn the discussion into action, so people have started to organize themselves. And what Bertra said was also very important, so let me give you a quick
Indeed, these are not points of questions or discussions. These are really points that we need to take note and to reflect, because I think in almost of them we all agree. So if I turn to the points that Bernard already mentioned, like the role of IGF, it's already there. Everyone accepts it, that IGF has proven itself to be very valuable and unsustainable instrument on the digital governance. When it comes to models you are advising, like the working group of internet, will look on this practice. And when it comes to the importance of all these messages you are giving, because these come from your own practice, and I like this word of IGF with these veterans. We really need to be based on what we have achieved until now, and the know-how and the experience you have is really very valuable on that. The role of national institutions, that's all that what we are hearing, and we are taking note of that, are really invaluable inputs that for us there is no need to discuss, I think, Thomas, on that. Just we take note, and you'll see them reflected in the future documents that we are going to produce.
Thank you very much. So let's take the final 3 requests. Anna, please.
Thank you. I'm Ana Neves from Portugal, and I would like to emphasize 4 points. My first one is about the national and regional initiatives. They are very important. We have 167, I think, national and regional initiatives, but the governments normally are not part of these national and regional initiatives, and so I really hope that all this process will give more strength and will maybe institutionalize these NRIs. Second, there is a statement which is the multi-stakeholder São Paulo guidelines. These São Paulo multi-stakeholder guidelines are very interesting because they propose steps to make the multilateral process more interesting if you use the São Paulo guidelines. So they are steps, they are clearly demonstrating how to make the multilateral process more multi-stakeholder. So I think that to raise the flag about the importance of this document. My number 3 is about a clear mandate on who is doing what. So nowadays we have in the UN family a lot of duplications. So I hope that from all these exercise that will end in December, we will have a clear picture on who is doing what. And finally, I would like to be very ambitious and to ask for the future of the IGF to get the relevance and impact of the World Economic Forum, for instance. So this should be, I think, our ambition, and to make a really forum where the heads of state, ministers, and all the other key stakeholders will be engaged. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go immediately to the other side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Esther Yaromitsky, UK government. Thank you so much to the COFAX for being here. We really appreciate your time. We wanted to highlight that the UK government is actively engaging in lots of regional and national IGFs. For example, our team attended the Africa IGF this year, as well as EuroDIG, which was hosted at the Council of Europe this year. And similarly to what our colleague Anna mentioned, we think that the role that regional and local IGFs play in the system of internet governance and WSIS needs to really be discussed, because it is really important. There are actually 176 IGFs at the moment. They are national, they're regional, there's youth IGFs, and the value we see in them is that they bring together stakeholders at the national, at the local, at regional levels. And this is a platform that is very unique because it provides the voices to be heard. So we really would like to see stronger links between local and regional IGFs, and as well as the annual IGF where we are today. And we hope that we can use this WSIS review to really strengthen their role. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Christina.
Yes, good morning. My name is Christina Alida. I am with the Egyptian government, and I would like to thank the co-facilitators for being here through the week and listening to the IGF community. I cannot re-emphasize more how it's important to be sitting in a multi-stakeholder format and listening. I think we've come this long way, like Marcus was saying. I'm presuming the sounding board consists of stakeholders that are not governments. I think the importance is to have a platform and a way where we're going to discuss the different versions in a multi-stakeholder format, not only governments alone and the sounding board alone. Having said that, I would appreciate if we can see the consultations that will happen through the coming months take place in days of the week that are not weekends in parts of the world. Most consultations in the past have been on Fridays. Fridays are weekend in the place where I come from. So it would be good to have them at a time where actual stakeholders can participate. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. Our time is almost up, but of course I want to give you the floor. I think we've heard so much. There has been so much talk. What is the key in one sentence or two sentences? What is your key takeaways after also this session? Ekitela.
Thank you, Thomas. And first, let me say how grateful we are to this community here for sharing with us freely your thoughts about how we should conduct the WSIS Plus 20 review. I think it was important that we came here and spent the amount of time that we've spent, because then it makes the documents that we are going to produce even richer than they were going to be had we not come. So we are grateful for that. Second is to give you our commitment that we committed to run an open, transparent, inclusive review process. We will endeavor, as we've tried to do up to this point, to provide avenues for all of you to give your inputs into this process. As all of us know, for a complex process of this nature, of course, not everything that we would like to be reflected will be reflected, because there are going to be as many opinions as there are stakeholders. But our job will be to reflect as many of those as possible, those that are shared by stakeholders. Finally, we leave our channels open. We've given out our cards. We ran out of them, I think, by day 2. But you know how to reach us through the Secretariat. Ambassador Yanina and I are available whenever you have any idea. Please let us know. Invite us to your platforms. If we're able to come, we will make a point of coming. If not, we'll participate remotely. So let's keep this conversation going. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Suela.
Thank you, Thomas. And just to join my colleague in expressing the gratitude for the richness and all the elements that you have put forward for our consideration. We are seriously and very much committed to analyze everything and to be very open and transparent in this process. What we'll take from this week here at the IGF is the commitment to preserve the WSIS spirit and to be ambitious to adapt it to the new digital world we are living. So my last call will be, let's be actively all engaged, because WSIS belongs to everyone. No one can consider ownership over the process. So by being collectively engaged and in a collegial spirit, we believe that we can conduct successful negotiations and have an outcome process and document that will be fit for the future and the digital world that we would like to together build, for not only for this generation, but for the next one as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Under Secretary General Yunhali.
Well, thank you, Thomas. And I think we have a very meaningful and rich discussion over the past several days. We actually shared a very common aspirations to have a better delivered WSIS Plus 20 review. So I think the inclusivity actually generated more complementarity through this open and transparent process. So as a Secretariat, we are very committed to provide all that we can do to support this process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So with this, that's the end of the first half of the session. I'm going to hand over to my co-pilot, Jorge, that you also know. Thank you very much for the attention. Thank you for the interaction. A big thanks to our important guests, and I wish you good luck for the hard but great work that you will be doing in the coming weeks and months. Thank you.